I have Richard Asante, the chairman of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority from Ghana. Richard, can you give us a little quick update on where the pension industry is at in Ghana?
Yeah, in 2004, there was an agitation by workers that the pensions that they were receiving was not adequate enough. So government set up a pensions review committee to look at certain reforms. So the work of the review commission was completed around 2008, and the Act, the National Pensions Regulatory Act, was passed in 2008, became law. The National Pensions Regulatory Authority was inaugurated in 2009, and then the scheme began operation in January 2010. At the moment, we are in the process of putting together the regulations which have just recently been passed, I think in March of this year, and we are now working on the guidelines to begin the licensing processes to get the players in the industry started. Briefly, the scheme is of three parts. It's what we call a three-tier pension scheme. The first tier is a basic national social security scheme, which will be managed by the institution called Social Security National Insurance Trust, and it is mandatory for all workers in the public sector and also for workers in the private sector who would elect to become part of it. It will basically pay monthly pensions. The second tier, which is also mandatory, will be privately managed, and but it will be managed by trustees who will be licensed by the authority, and then the trustees have the right to appoint fund managers and custodians. The fund managers and custodians would be registered by the authority. Because these two players are regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission, so they will have to be first licensed by them, and then the authority will register them. If we find that we need certain additional requirements, that will be put in place. But for now, the basic admission would be that they are licensed by the Securities and Exchange Commission. The third tier, it's basically to cater for the large informal sector in Ghana, which is about 85% of the working population, and it will take care of provident funds and private and personal pension and group schemes that will be introduced. So basically, these are the three levels that we're going to operate. Ghana is a mixture of DB and DC systems. The first tier is basically a DB system. The second and third tiers are DC systems. The first two are also mandatory, and then the third tier is voluntary. The basis for the three tier was that when we want to look at income replacement ratio, the first and the second tier would give about 70% income replacement. But if you are looking for additional pension benefits, then if you go into the third tier, then you are in the region of getting at least 100% income replacement ratio. The contributions about for the first and second tier is 8.5%. The workers contribute 5.5% of their basic salary, and then the employers contribute 13%. The first tier would have 11% to be managed by the Social Security National Insurance Trust for the DB system. And the second tier will be 5%, which will be managed by, which will be privately managed. And the third tier is voluntary, so you can put in any amount that you want. There are also tax incentives. The total tax incentives for the whole system is about 35%. Workers contribute 5.5% of their basic salary, so they get 5.5% tax benefit. The employers contribute 13%, so they also get 13% tax benefit. So the first and second tier, total 18.5% of tax incentives. The remaining 6.5% is in the third tier. That is to encourage, the informal sector and the private sector to, buy into that. And it depends, the remaining 6.5% will be shared between the employer and the employee. If the employer contributes 10%, he gets 10% tax incentive. If the, employer decides to contribute even all of 6.5%, will get the full 6.5% incentive. It is just to encourage, people to get onto the schemes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Richard. That's been very helpful and informative. Thank you.